I'm Macy Egland. Today we're hearing from some of the key investigators about how the Gilgo Beach task force built its case against Rex Heuermann. It re-examined and sometimes re-obtained evidence collected over more than a decade. The goal was a complete overhaul, turning that evidence into something prosecutors could bring to court.
We went into social media, we went into phone records. Once the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, it just kept rolling in.
Coming up, we'll hear from the former FBI agent turned Suffolk Police Commissioner who helped jumpstart the stalled case. The man charged in another Gilgo Beach killing is expected in court today. Former Tennessee State Trooper Andrew Dykes is accused of killing Tanya Denise Jackson. For years, she was known as Peaches because of a tattoo. Jackson's remains were found at Hempstead Lake State Park and along Ocean Parkway. That's where the remains of the toddler she and Dykes shared were also discovered. Optimism today, an LIRR strike could be averted. The railroad's president believes a settlement to a years-long contract dispute is within reach.
We're in agreement on the 3 years. We're just talking about 1 year, and I don't think we're that far apart.
The two sides have already agreed on nearly 10% in raises over the first 3 years of the contract, but some labor unions want a fourth year at 5%. Suffolk has started cracking down on e-bikes and scooters. New laws require everyone to wear a helmet, and driving is off limits on sidewalks and roads with speed limits of more than 30 miles per hour. A new plan could reduce the size of new homes in Levittown. Hempstead's town board meets next week on the change, and if approved, building areas on residential lots would be reduced from 30% to 27.5%. Officials say this addresses concerns about overbuilding. An affordable senior housing complex in West Babylon is getting more than $1 million in upgrades. Fixes to the Belmont villas include new roofs and heating and air conditioning units. Well, Fanilows can celebrate the return of Barry Manilow to Long Island. The Grammy winner has rescheduled his show at UBS Arena for June 27th. Manilow postponed his April concerts following doctor's orders after a lung cancer diagnosis in December. All right, let's talk about your Friday forecast. We made it to the weekend. Yes. Meteorologist Jeff Manson is here to tell us maybe kind of a not so great weekend.
Very similar to last weekend, kind of one day where there will be rain, one day where there will hopefully be zero rain, but they're flipped around this time. So Saturday is going to be our indoor day. Sunday will be the day where we should dry out, maybe a couple of sprinkles around in the morning. We'll get to that weekend forecast. Let's take a look outside right now. Shinnecock Fishing Dock. It is well, it was a pretty sky, kind of a gloomier morning out there. There is some rain along the east end right now. We'll show you where that is in a moment, but a little bit of sun on the right side of the screen. I think today's a decent day. It's not going to be as nice as yesterday. That was our pick of the week. And it's not really even that close. 71 degrees. Our record high yesterday was actually 77, so not far from that. Closer to the record than to the actual average, which was in the low 60s. We'll take a look at the temperatures outside right now. It was a pretty mild overnight, as we did have some clouds filtering in. Temperatures ranging from about 45 to 50 at this point. Let's move along, and we'll take a look at your headlines for today. Let's actually just skip past this here. If we could just advance that graphic, right? We are going to see that light rain moving across the east end right now. There you can see that stripe of rain, kind of a very narrow line of rain here. So if you're in western Suffolk, Nassau, you're not seeing anything. It's all over the east end right now. And very interesting because that's going to be kind of how the rain moves in as we advance into tomorrow here. You can take a look. I've actually drawn the arrow in so you can kind of see that northwest to southeast line here. So let's move on to your futurecast. We'll take a look at that rain. And it does start to dissipate as we go throughout the morning here. We'll take a look at your rainfall totals. Not going to be seeing that much, though. As we advance into tomorrow, we'll take a look at that rain starting to kind of spread across the island here. If we can show those numbers, there they have it. You can see that blue contour behind me there. That indicates anywhere from an inch, or I'd say about a half an inch to an inch of rain, and that's slowly going to move east throughout the day. But as you can see, the lower numbers are going to be on the east end tomorrow. So not all that much in the rain department. We actually do need the rain, as you'll see in the next graphic here. We have a drought. Well, it's not a drought. Technically, it is an abnormally dry period here across Long Island. You can see this tan color here to the west, though, parts of New York City, and even starting to bleed into Nassau. That is a moderate drought. That's officially a drought here. So what this yellow abnormally dry coloring means is that if we do not see any rain over the next couple of weeks, that we will probably enter the lowest stages of a drought. Fortunately, though, as we take a look at the extended precipitation outlook here, this takes us through the first week of May. You can actually see a good deal of the Northeast is looking at wetter than average conditions, and it's also unfortunately going to mean some cooler than average air, especially for the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes here. We're kind of on the cusp of that, so it might be a little bit closer to average than below average, but still it's going to be on the cooler side. People have been asking me left and right, when are we going to finally see this warmer air? Well, we're probably going to have to put a pin in it at least until maybe the second week of May. So I hope you enjoyed yesterday. And again, today not bad by any stretch. Temperatures ranging from the upper 50s out east to the lower 60s as you make your way west towards the city. Line tonight will be mostly cloudy. We'll see temperatures, though, a little bit chillier this time around, upper 30s to around 40. Fortunately, we're not looking at any of those freezing nights that prompted the freeze warnings earlier this week. So plants okay. And then again, as we head into tomorrow, we'll see that rain moving in. Probably just some showers in the morning, more so steady rain into the PM hours. And as you can see, the temperature is very uniform across the board, around 50 degrees. 7-day forecast will show that that's the last chance of rain, at least for a few days. We'll have a nice dry stretch from Sunday into Monday. Again, can't rule out a sprinkle early Sunday morning, but we'll see increasing amounts of sun throughout the day. It does remain on the cooler side. Temperatures getting back to 60 on Monday. Should be there on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, again, increasing clouds. We might see some rain Wednesday into Thursday. Temperatures will be pretty seasonable here, but no real warm days in the extended future.
Long Island weather is brought to you by Fire Island Ferries.
Some closure in the Gilgo killings case, decades after the murders that haunted Long Island. In April, former Manhattan architect Rex Heuermann of Massapequa Park said he's the Gilgo Beach serial killer by admitting to murdering 8 women. Today, we're hearing from some of the investigators about how they put the puzzle together. Virginia Huey has that story.
It was such a monumental, important day.
Geraldine Hart watched with great interest when serial killer Rex Heuermann pleaded guilty to the murders of 7 women and admitted that he also murdered an 8th victim in a string of crimes known as the Gilgo Beach killings.
He's an obvious psychopath.
Hart was pivotal in jump-starting the stalled Gilgo Beach murders investigation. When the veteran FBI agent was named Suffolk Police Commissioner in 2018, the investigation had been hampered for over a decade by Suffolk County Police corruption and the exclusion of the FBI. Hart helped steer the wayward murder probe by asking federal investigators and the public for help.
We believe that the belt was handled by the suspect and did not belong to any of the victims.
In 2020, Hart released the image of a belt buckle previously found by police and set up a Gilgo-related website. It was a bold attempt to revive the stalled investigation.
The markings on the belt, the uniqueness of the belt, and really just to say to the public, you know, this is back in the forefront. We need your help. We can't do this by ourselves. And it was really kind of a 3-pronged strategy at that point. It was, you know, leveraging all the scientific technology, then getting the public involved and what that looks like, and then really kind of driving them to the website where we could take tips live, right, all day long.
Under Hart, a cutting-edge DNA technique called genetic genealogy helped confirm one of the unidentified victims, Valerie Mack. It was considered a major breakthrough.
Valerie was a mom too, and she had a son who didn't know what happened to his mother. You know, perhaps he thought she just left. So you hope that the work that you do helps in some way so that he could have some answers.
In 2022, Hart's successor, Rodney Harrison, and Suffolk District Attorney Ray Tierney assembled a multi-agency team known as the Gilgo Beach Task Force. It focused on reviewing evidence, re-interviewing witnesses, and using advanced technology.
We went into social media, we went into phone records, historical cell site records, billing records, you know, financial records. Once the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, it just kept rolling in. And we just kept following each lead, each piece of evidence, and it just kept getting stronger and stronger.
The breakthrough came when the task force used DNA evidence from discarded pizza crusts and analyzed phone records to connect Heuermann to the burner phones and subsequently the crime scenes.
You put all of these pieces together, you weave it all together, and it creates a powerful narrative.
Task force members say the methods used in the Gilgo Beach murders investigation will serve as a blueprint to help solve hundreds of cold cases in Suffolk County.
The best thing, other than the closure for the victims, which is number one. Number two is this gives us the opportunity to take this apparatus that we've built and apply it to these other cases.
For Newsday TV, I'm Virginia Huey.
Joining me now to dig more into the case is Newsday criminal justice reporters Michael O'Keefe and Anthony DiStefano. Both have covered this case extensively through the years. Michael spoke with Geraldine Hart, the former Suffolk Police Commissioner and a former FBI agent who was a central figure in the Gilgo investigation. And Anthony spoke to Richard Zacharies. For the first time ever, we heard from that district attorney investigator who helped form the building blocks of the investigation that ultimately led to Rex Heuermann. So, Michael, we want to start with you. Hart served as the Suffolk Police Commissioner from 2018 to 2021. She's credited with bringing some renewed urgency to this case that had been stalled, as we know, for years by local political infighting, some corruption. Tell us about Geraldine's role in this case.
Yeah, Geraldine Hart was very critical in resolving this case. She said she brought I think she brought a renewed sense of public urgency and public attention to this. She had the press conference where they showed this belt with the initials WH on it. That certainly got the public's attention. It got the media's attention. Prior to her coming in, Tim Sini had brought the FBI back into the case after the Burke corruption scandal. But Geraldine Hart really kind of brought this to the public. I think maybe the most important thing she did was she brought in genetic genealogy, which helped ultimately identify Valerie Mack. That's a huge development in the case, and again, I think it signaled to the public that this investigation is right on track. Also, Geraldine is a mom, and I think she understood Valerie Mack had a young son, and this boy, was growing up without knowing what had happened to his mother. Obviously, can't bring the mom back, but it does give a sense of closure, and I think that was very important to her as well.
Yeah. Anthony, let's get out to you in the newsroom there. Let's talk about how Heuermann was found. How did Detective Zacharies help in that part of the investigation?
Well, Heuermann was found through a constellation of evidence, big and small. You had the DNA, which was very compelling, and you also had little things like a piece of paper towel found in his home, which comported or compared with a paper towel found at one of the crime scenes. Richard Zacharies was the whip, so to speak, for the task force. He was the man in charge and put in charge by DA Ray Tierney to get the case together, get the evidence into admissible form, supervise 70 people working in the DA's office and 17 task force agency members. So he pulled that all together, and the crucial thing was him getting the evidence in admissible form to put into the grand jury and also to make sure things were going to be acceptable to a court should the case go to trial.
Well, now we know Rex Heuermann has pled guilty, but looking ahead, Michael, there is still one more body which was discovered near Gilgo that has not yet been identified. Again, you spoke with Geraldine Hart. Did she say anything about whether or not that case could ever be closed?
It is an Asian gentleman whose remains were found. He has not been identified. I think Geraldine Hart and other law enforcement officials would never rule out a resolution to that situation. We've seen great strides in DNA technology, for example, in other investigative methods, and it's one of those things you never know what's going to happen until it happens.
Anthony, you spoke with the Suffolk DA while interviewing Detective Zacharies. Had this case gone to trial, how did prosecutors feel about their chances with this one?
Well, the prosecutors were very strongly feeling that there was going to be a conviction in this case. Richard Zacharies said to me in the interview that he thought every case was solvable, and it appeared that they had a massive evidence. And Ray Tierney said to me, the case got better and better and better with every piece of evidence they found. So they were fairly certain that they were going to get a conviction in this case. And I think that's what ultimately swayed the defense to plead guilty.
Mm-hmm. Heuermann is set to be sentenced on June 17th. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time. You can read the latest developments on the case and in-depth Newsday videos on the topic. See those as well on our website, newsday.com. In sports, are the Knicks in trouble? Last night was Game 3 in their playoff series with the Hawks. They got behind early, rallied for a late lead, but could not convert on the final possession. Newsday Knicks writer Steve Popper looks at what went wrong in Atlanta.
The Knicks now find themselves in a 2-1 hole here after a very heartbreaking finish here in Atlanta. The Knicks were down by as many as 18, fought back, took the lead, and in the final minutes, the time that you've seen Jalen Brunson perform so many clutch miracles for them today for the first time in a while, you just saw he couldn't come through. It was an air ball with 16 seconds left. CJ McCollum, who has played the hero for Atlanta in the series, came through with a huge shot from the elbow, gave Atlanta a 1-point lead, and the Knicks still had 12.5 seconds left after a timeout, a chance to pull this one out. Brunson tried to drive, came up with, just didn't have room to do anything. Tried to kick it out to Josh Hart, cutting in the lane, and it just rolled to center court. Game ends, and it's just shocking to see Jalen Brunson not come through in those moments after all he's done for the Knicks. But they find themselves in a 2-1 hole. Very disappointed after the game. You could see sort of the emotion on their faces after. But it's 2-1. I think they've talked about, Mike Brown talked about afterward, this being a 7-game series. This is what they expected. They've got Game 4 on Saturday night here in Atlanta and hope to head back to Madison Square Garden tied 2-2. This is Steve Popper for Newsday Sports.
Again, Game 4 is tomorrow in Atlanta. You can read more about the Knicks playoffs push on Newsday.com. Click Get More below that Newsday TV video box.
Feed Me is brought to you by GL Homes, a reputation built on quality and trust since 1976.
A nostalgic chopped salad is a cult classic for some Long Islanders. Newsday food writer Andy Berlin finds out why at Chateau Coffee Shop in Woodmere.
You put it on the pita as if it's like a spread. It's like more like a spread than a salad. I'm over in the 5 towns of Long Island in Woodmere, and I have to admit I did not know about the mish salad until a few weeks ago. It is an undiscovered Long Island icon, and people were absolutely obsessed with it.
I like the mish.
I love the mish. There's nothing like it. Let's go. We're going. We're going in here. The place is called Chateau Coffee Shop, and it's been around since 1958. It's super retro, and it's filled with all these regulars who've been coming here for decades. Who's the guy in your shirt?
Norman, he's the original owner.
Oh, he looks so cool. He's got like a really big head.
Yep.
When the first owner was here, he invented the mish.
The name comes from the Yiddish expression mishmash, which means like a jumble of different things.
When I started here, it was only like 16 mishes. Now we're up to 20.
There's like a hamburger one and like a
Oh, that's the number 20.
And then there's a chicken finger?
Yes, the number 19.
Well, I just got a vegetable one.
It looks more carroty, this one.
Yes, that is true, yes. Bugs Bunny would be very proud of me.
She's an expert. Yeah, come on, Stacy. If I did it, you'd do it.
First, I go like this. Then I go like this. Then it's a technique that I don't get it everywhere. And then I put a little more here. Love. They actually named the mish after me. Dario, what's the name of my mish?
That's 17.
17A and Stacy's mish.
Stacy's mish.
And I got the indie tuna, or the individual canned tuna, which is basically just tuna fish. And also a diet egg cream, which is diet because it has skim milk, I guess. It just already kind of feels like saucy, so it doesn't need, I feel like it doesn't need a lot of sauce. I'm just gonna put a little bit. Alice Waters would not be happy about this. You know, this barely exists in New York City anymore. Like this kind of place, it can still exist on Long Island, and that's what's so cool about it. Mish salad. For Newsday TV, I'm Andy Berlin.
For more on this 5 towns classic and for more places to find the mish salad, go to Newsday.com. Click Get More below the Newsday TV video box. Newsday at the movies. I'm Macy Eglund. The weather is finally getting a bit warmer, and that means this year's summer movies are right around the corner. Our good friend, Newsday film critic Rafer Guzman, is back with the flicks that'll be topping the box office this season. We'll all be getting some fashion advice, whether we like it or not, when Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep reunite for The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Hello?
Well, look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
Sorry. Who is this? Do you know her?
Well, 20th Century is really pulling out the stops for this one. They've brought back Stanley Tucci and Emily Blunt. They've added Kenneth Branagh as Meryl Streep's new husband. There's a new song by Lady Gaga, and people are really excited for this movie. They've been posting pictures of the actors shooting in Manhattan. Fashion writers are already doing stories on the clothing. Box office predictions keep climbing. First, it was a $66 million opening. Now it's maybe $95 million. Other movies might make more money this summer, but I think this one is going to feel like an event.
Yeah, people really looking forward to that one for sure. Anne Hathaway also stars in another huge movie coming out this summer, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. This looks like a good one too.
Yeah, leave it to Christopher Nolan to make a movie out of a 3,000-year-old book. It stars Matt Damon as King Odysseus, who's been off fighting the Trojan War, and he's now trying to get back to his wife, played by Anne Hathaway. Very big cast here. Tom Holland as Odysseus' son, John Bernthal, Robert Pattinson, Zendaya. The budget is a reported $250 million. Nolan shot the whole movie on IMAX. He recently showed some footage of the Trojan horse sequence at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, and fans seem to be impressed.
Yeah, it seems really dramatic. Fans of the Game of Thrones, speaking of dramatic, will recognize two familiar faces in Supergirl. Millie Alcock from House of the Dragon and Jason Momoa from season 1 of Thrones are in this one, which looks intense.
Yeah, this looks like an interesting twist on Supergirl. The plot here seems to be that she's trying to save the life of her dog, Crypto. But this is not the bubbly Supergirl of the TV show. She's now kind of a runaway teen / bad girl type. And the director is Craig Gillespie from I, Tonya and Cruella, so he likes those bad girl characters. Supergirl never quite caught on the way Wonder Woman or Harley Quinn has, but we'll see if this new iteration can turn her into a proper movie franchise.
I loved Cruella, and I kind of see that vibe in this one, yeah. All right, this next movie, not your average murder mystery. In fact, it takes a flock of sheep to solve it.
Our shepherd was murdered. And we shall
The
solve
Sheep Detectives. We were talking about the name. Not that creative, but at least you know what you're getting.
That's right. Well, it was based on a novel. The novel was called 3 Bags Full.
Okay, it's a little better.
All right. You know, for such a silly-looking movie, this really has an amazing cast. Hugh Jackman, Emma Thompson, Nicholas Braun from Beth Page. And that's not even counting the voices like Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Bryan Cranston. And this movie also looks pretty smart because mysteries are hot right now with Only Murders in the Building and Knives Out. But it also looks like a family film, like a Paddington or a Babe. So if this can pull in both those audiences, Sheep Detectives could really be a sleeper hit.
I love the Knives Out movies. Those are great. Speaking of Long Island actors, a Central Islip High School alum is in the Michael Jackson biopic. Nathaniel McIntyre plays young Jackie. He sat down with our Jasmine Anderson earlier this year. Michael is out this weekend, so Rafer, what are we thinking of this one?
All right, a few things to know. One, this is a Jackson family production, so don't go in expecting a cold, hard look at the legacy. Two, this is actually just part 1 of the story. It stops around 1988 before a lot of the darker parts of Michael Jackson's story. That said, Jafar Jackson, who plays his uncle Michael Jackson, is amazing. He can act, he can sing, and he can dance like the king of pop himself.
And so cool to have a local kid playing in this movie, too.
That's right.
So impressive. Awesome. All right, thank you to Rafer Guzman, Newsday's film critic, for once again breaking it all down for us. You can read his summer movie review on our website, Newsday.com. You can see more on all of these stories on Newsday.com and watch us streaming anytime on Local Now, YouTube, and the other streaming services you see here. I'm Macy Eglund. We've got more local news coming up.
Catch the latest latest from Newsday in high school sports.
And be part of the action when I take your questions. Email me, text me, hit me up on X, Instagram, make a phone call. We're going to have a great time all season long.
Sarah sounds off.